help us understand. Thank you. Help us understand selling some beachfront properties today. So she's got lots of info for us. Here in Ocean Isle, we did turn this into a real lunch and learn. So we have a meeting sponsor, and we have Clay from US Bank, who's going to come on up and say a few words for us. And then we'll have Cherri.
Thanks.
Hey,
Hey, guys. My name is Clay Robertson, and I'm a mortgage lender with US Bank Home Mortgage. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My wife and I have lived in Raleigh since 2005. And we moved down here full-time August of last year. So we've been here, well, 2 years. So we were full-time residents. We live at the retreat over in Ocean Isle Beach. And we can't be more excited to be a part of the community. And I met Larry and Cherri over several times over the last several months, and they've been gracious to, Cherri actually said, "Hey, Clay, give Kathy a call, might get on one of our sales meetings." So I've been in business 28 years, and I looked to finish my career with the company I just left. I was a broker, mortgage banker, broke for all those years. I owned my own company for a couple of years. But about 4 months ago, guy over in Wilmington that I've known for years called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, Clay, how's it going?" I'm like, "It's going well." I said, "I'm making some traction over at Ocean Isle in Brunswick County." He said, "We'd love to talk to you because I think we got some products that could really help you." So we talked for about 2.5 months, and long story short, I decided to make the change after a lot of soul searching just to make sure, because I wanted to finish out my career. So the reason I came over is US Bank is one of the 5th largest bank in the country. They don't have a lot of retail presence in the Carolinas other than Charlotte, but they've been doing mortgages for years, and they do a really, really, really good job. So their core values kind of align with mine. They're the most admired company in the world. Ethically, they do things the right way. So that kind of aligns with how I do business. But several reasons I came over: a construction to perm loan, which is a one-time close. So if you've got a buyer that's looking to buy either a primary residence or a second home, we'll do a one-time close it within 60 days. They're locking into their fixed rate up front. The first 12 months, they're going to pay just the interest on pay interest only on the interest that's accrued. And then after the 12 months, then the loan converts for the remaining 29 years. It is an awesome, awesome, awesome program. And I got a cheat sheet because I'm still learning all the products. But the CP on the second home, which you're probably more interested in, will go to 80% to $1 million and 75 to $1.5 million. So if you got a client, the first thing you would do is send them over to me. I'll identify tell me who the builder is. I'll make sure they're approved. If they're not approved, it takes a couple of weeks to get them when I approve this. It's a very easy process. And I was telling Larry and Cherri that my manager over in Wilmington, he probably did 50 or 60 last year. He is an expert. So I've got a good trainer along the way if I need help. One of the other reasons I came over was lot loans. We'll do 80% to 300,000, 75 to 400, 70% to 500, and then 65 to 750 if you have one in the house. It's a 3.
Yeah, because that is a very hard thing to find.
There's not a lot of them out there.
There's
not a lot out there. So the intent is they're gonna build a primary residence, and I'll check Cherri to make sure, see if we can do a second home, but I think it's just primary. Okay. And the other thing.
And do check on that, because that's what a lot of people are doing, Clay. They're coming in and they're buying a lot and wanting to hang on to it.
Yep.
Until they can
Yeah,
until they can build their home.
Yep. Especially last year when material prices were going up, and then like, okay, let's get the lot. We'll sit on it to things stabilize.
That's exactly right.
So
yeah, not wanting to build right away.
Exactly. So I'm extremely excited about the lot loans and the CPs. And then the other thing is, I can promise you, on a jumbo loan, there's nobody in the industry that'll touch our pricing.
Really?
We get reports every month, and it shows all the lenders nationally. We're at the very top of jumbos. So I'll give you an example. This morning I priced a $2 million second home, $1.5 million loan amount. Check this out. Our 30-year fixed rate, no points, is 2 5/8.
Oh my God.
Which is about 1/4% lower than a conventional one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, our jumbos, nobody can touch it. And then the other thing is we have a 10-1 arm and a 7-1 arm. The 10-1 is fixed for 10 years at 2.25%. So if you got any jumbo buyers, at least give me a shot at it, but I don't think we'd lose on price. So,
Well, and another thing that we're seeing is that, when you got, lending percentages like that, our cash buyers are opting to use your money instead of their money.
if you borrow money that low of an interest rate,
Yeah,
take that money and do something else with it.
yeah,
And that's another thing I do as a loan officer. You know, our industry was basically a commodity for years. And we were our own worst enemy. The approach I've taken over the years is I'll go deep with the client. I try to figure out what's important to them with the mortgage. I'll give you an example. I had one recently, $400,000 purchase price. They were going to put down 20%, $320,000 loan, so $80,000 down payment. And I got to looking at all the information they gave me. I'm like, well, you got $30,000 in credit card debt. Why don't you pay the credit card debt off, put down 10% versus 20, even though you're going to have PMI? The PMI is relatively inexpensive if you've got high credit scores. And I said, with the appreciation rates, within a year, you probably go back to your servicer and say, hey, I think we got 20% equity, and they eliminate the mortgage insurance. So where a lot of lenders are just quoting rates.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more to it than a rate. I mean, just like in business. I mean, it's a lot of us out here, and you know, and the other thing I think is how I've been successful over the years is that it's not a simple, it's just a really simple recipe. Do what you say you're gonna do when you say you're gonna do it. Set proper expectations. If you got an appraiser that's backed up, hey, instead of writing a 2-week due diligence, you might want to do 3 weeks. So just, and then the other thing is, from a pre-qualification standpoint, it's more important now than ever. With competitive offers, you know, the amount of due diligence money that your buyers have got to put up front. So they want to make sure they get with a lender who's, who's on point and says, yeah, I'm comfortable, this person qualifies. And then the other thing, I'm available. I go out a lot on Saturdays and Sundays. I mean, I'm not scared to work. Where a lot of other lenders are just, a lot of them live in Wilmington. I live here local. So if you need me, open houses, I'm happy to do any of that kind of stuff. And I return my phone calls, I return texts, and answer emails in a timely fashion. So, but anyway, that's what I have, and you guys have got it. Kathy's got some. She's gonna give you all your information. I think. Well, you want to reach out to me?
I dropped it also in our chat because we have about 20 people
Okay.
on Zoom right now.
Oh, right. I didn't
so-
realize we were on.
Yep.
I got.
Well, they're here.
Okay.
Um,
I don't know how that
yeah,
works.
so I dropped all your contact info in the
I
chat.
appreciate that. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. I really appreciate you allowing me to come in, because I know you guys have got an in-house lender. I just like to have an opportunity and just to show what I can do. And again, I'm here full-time, and this is our community, and we're looking forward to giving back to the community and being involved.
Thank you for an awesome work.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, your turn, Cherri.
Oh, boy. Well, y'all, I'm just gonna this is gonna be kind of a funny
Yep.
seminar, I'm sure, because I'm not used to giving seminars, but we're gonna talk about some things that I think that y'all need to know about selling property along the coast. Over the years, I've sold an awful lot of land. This is the reason I was talking to Clay so much. And with the selling of that land, there comes some issues that I think that a lot of agents just really do not know about. I'm going to share some of those with you. I've got a lot of slides here that Kathy, thanks to Kathy so much, because I have no idea how to do any of this stuff. She has done a great job putting this together. The slides are complicated, and I'm going to just kind of go over the surface of explaining to you some of the things that go along. I need to impress upon you that if you are selling land along the coast, you may want to reach out to the municipality to the inspections department and make sure that you ask them questions about the particular lot or lots that you are trying to put under contract. Because there are some things that you will need to know to keep you from getting into a lawsuit. So, Kathy, if you can just, oh, where's she? Oh,
I'm sorry.
I got it.
no, that's okay, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna go ahead and just jump into this. One of the things that we're going to be talking about today a lot is the inlet hazard area, because that is becoming more and more prevalent in all of the coastal areas. And again, a lot of these slides that we're going to look at are going to show you some of the inlet hazard areas of the islands. I think you're going to be shocked to see how much of each one of the islands are in that inlet hazard area. Kathy is going to have a few questions and answers that has been put out by the state of North Carolina. I'm just going to read a couple of statements here that are going to be important as we go through this. Ocean and inlet shorelines represent a dynamic interface between the sea and the land, and the inlet shorelines are constantly moving. I'm going to give you some examples of that. And they're influenced by the tides, the winds, the currents, the waves, and also by some of the things that we do, the dredging, beach renourishment, closing and relocation of the inlets, which I'm going to explain to you as well. There's two things that you need to remember about inlets. Some of them migrate, some of them oscillate. Migrate means that they're taking the sand and they're just kind of pushing it up to the shoreline area, and it's more of a long-term effect. Oscillating means that the shoreline is actually kind of moving back and forth. I'll tell you a funny story. The inlet that is between Sunset Beach and Ocean Isle Beach is called Tubbs Inlet. And it's actually filling in a lot right now, but that inlet oscillates. It goes about 5 years towards Sunset Beach, and then it'll go back and it'll start accreting back over towards Ocean Isle Beach. And it erodes from one side to the other. Well, many years ago, Ed Gore, who was his father was the original developer of Sunset Beach, and O.D.L. Williamson was the original developer of Ocean Isle Beach. Well, this inlet between the two, who were arch rivals, is oscillating. Well, Ed Gore decided he's going to develop the end of Sunset Beach. Come to find out, some of the end of Sunset Beach belonged to O.D.L. Williamson, because the inlet had moved this way and built up Sunset Beach. And they actually had to go into a lawsuit because there was some of Odell's land over on Sunset Beach, and within the next 5 years, it was back over at Ocean Isle Beach. So that'll let you know it causes a lot of problems. So that is kind of an oscillating area there. The migrations and the oscillations affect not only the inlet shorelines between the two islands, but they will affect the oceanfront areas on each side there. So we're going to go in and start looking at some of this, and then I'm going to cover some other topics as well. This is a slide that pretty much tells you what the inlet hazard area is. It is the area basically in an inlet and the areas on each side of the inlet. Okay, so we'll go down and Kathy, go to the next slide. So here is, this is Tubbs Inlet. This is between Sunset and Ocean Isle Beach. And you'll see how this has started filling in here. This is part of that oscillation. So the end of Sunset Beach is actually right in this area. Some of this sand here would actually belong to the Ocean Isle Beach side. And you can see how the Ocean Isle Beach side is starting to erode some. So, that is a perfect example of that oscillation. In the next few years, it would be going back the other way, and these are, areas that have been photographed over the years, so it may not be like that today. And that's why it's so important for you to realize that you do need to find out what is happening in that area at a time that you're getting ready to sell land. I mean, yes, Megan.
Where can we find the most current maps of that?
They are going to be, well, I've got some, I've got a link here that I'll get Kathy to send to you.
Okay.
It's part of a North Carolina State University study that has been done.
Okay.
And the very best thing that you can do is find out from the municipality, the inspections department of the beach that you're selling land for.
So they
Okay.
should have those maps.
Oh, yeah, all of this came from the state, and I got some from Ocean Beach. So y'all, just to let you see, all of this yellow here, all of that is inlet hazard area. And rules change when you're trying to build in an inlet hazard area. And as you can see, all of this land here at the end of Sunset Beach is all in that inlet hazard area. There are certain specifications that you will need to find out from the municipality, because even though the state rules, the municipalities have ordinances in place that may be a little stricter than what the state is. Kathy, run down to the next slide, please. And so over here, you're gonna see, this is showing some hybrid, what we call hybrid vegetation. And then we've got vegetation lines. The setbacks of the lots are going to be dependent on those lines, and unfortunately, those lines can move as well. So, for example, Larry and I put together a neighborhood down on the end of Ocean Isle Beach that is not developed yet. And we found out when we were putting this together that the lots could not start until you came back from the first line of stable vegetation, 195 feet. Now, somebody may think, gosh, I'm buying this oceanfront lot and I can just come back behind the primary dune, and that's not necessarily true. In an inlet hazard area, you've got to come way back from that first line of stable vegetation. This area over here, and Kathy's going to share all of these slides with you. You will see where up at the top, where the red lines are, that's actually accreting. And then the green lines are where it is eroding. And this is sort of like looking at hurricane map tracking. The lines are just always constantly moving, and these are indications of where people think that the movement is going to go to. This is the Tubbs Inlet area again, and this shows what we were looking at just a minute ago at the Sunset Beach side. All of this is in the hazard on the west end of Ocean Isle Beach, and you see how many houses are in there. So there are specific rules about building and rebuilding in an inlet hazard area. Again, I cannot impress enough, you need to check with the municipality. But if your house is destroyed 50% or more in a storm in an inlet hazard area, that does not mean you cannot build back. But you're going to be subject to certain setbacks, and you may be subject to a home that was not quite as large as your home. For example, several years ago, we sold a house on the end of Ocean Isle Beach, and the inlet hazard line had just been reestablished on the east end of Ocean Isle Beach, and the inlet hazard line actually cut through the front deck of this home that we had under contract. And at that point, I went to the town and I said, is this home affected by this? Because y'all, that gets into disclosure. And yes, it did. the house, if it were destroyed 50% or more by a hurricane, because that inlet hazard line cut through the deck on that house, instead of being able to build back 2,500 square feet, they would only be able to build back 2,000 square feet. I don't want any of you getting into a lawsuit about any of this. Yes.
So how was it that they were able to build it in the first place?
Okay, in the first place, because they built it before the inlet hazard line had been set at that point. That inlet hazard line can move back and forth depending on if the ocean area builds up or erodes. Now, that takes me over to another thing. At Ocean Isle Beach, there is a proposed growing, like Larry says, it's a horrible word. It's called a terminal growing. Sounds like some kind of bad.
It hurts.
And it is going to go off of, Kathy, go down another slide or two here for me. Okay, good, right here. The terminal growing is going to go off of this end of the island, about in this area right here. This is being built because of this inlet hazard area. If I had a really good aerial here, you would see how the current comes in and it digs at the beach and deposits. You can even see some of the sand down in here. That is eroding down into this area from the beach here. The premise behind the terminal growing is that this wall, which will be 750 feet out into the ocean, it'll be about 15 feet wide. It'll be able to be seen at low tide, not necessarily at high tide, and it'll be marked well so boats don't run into it. But that supposedly is going to help keep this inlet open. So to that question, at that point, hopefully this end of the beach is going to build up a little more. Then the line of stable vegetation will most likely move out. And that house at 443, the inlet hazard line will move away from the front deck and they probably could go back to 2,500 square feet at that time. And that's why it's so important for you to go and ask, what is today's situation if you're anywhere near an inlet? Usually if you're on the ocean front, you're in the middle of the island, you're not going to run into that kind of problem. But if you are near an inlet on either side, you need to ask. And I'm going to go to the backside in a minute and tell you some problems on the backside as well. But this is look at that. All of that is inlet hazard on the west end of Ocean Isle Beach. I mean, the east end of Ocean Isle Beach. Yes. The east end of Ocean Isle Beach. And there actually are, y'all, there are lots that are down in the ocean there. And the Williams family still pays fire fees on those lots.
Does the GIS, can you get it, a current IHA that's on the GIS?
Kathy, I don't know.
But you know how you can put those different layers and
Yeah.
stuff, right? So I don't know, I'll find it.
Yeah. This is the most purple one I've got.
Yeah, especially after the last 2 days.
Yeah.
That one was proposed, but wasn't fully adopted yet.
It hasn't been fully adopted. These are proposed and when we get down to the end, those are the actual proposals. So this area here, this is showing, all of this is hopefully going to not erode as much, but this inlet needs to, this part here will hopefully go away so that we have a safe travel for boats to get back to the intercoastal waterway. This is between Ocean Isle Beach and Holden Beach. So if you'll go down, Kathy, I'm gonna try not to spend way too much time on this inlet hazard so I can get to some of this other stuff. This is the Holden Beach side. And again, you're gonna see areas that are affected by the inlet hazard, and going down some more. And this is, see, look how much of that is inlet hazard. it is really scary when you're just a regular realtor like we all are, not to be aware of all of this that we have to be aware of, so that we are truthfully selling what we think we're selling. Going down, Kathy, and this is the east end of Holden Beach, Inlet Hazard, all the way over to the Lockwood Folly, where you're getting down into the river there, and go down. We're gonna just flip through and see some of the other ones. This goes down to Oak Island. Look at Lockwood Folly and into Oak Island there. It is a lot. And keep going. We got these are showing, and Kathy has these slides that she can share with you. This is going to go through and pretty much tell you where those proposed areas are today. That doesn't mean that it's going to be set in stone, and it can still migrate one way or the other. So you need to make sure when you're getting ready to sell one of these houses up here that it doesn't affect the rebuildable area of those homes. So Kathy, run on down, just run through those, and then we're going to get down to the marsh side. So all of that yellow is the proposed inlet hazard area. That's Ocean Isle, Holden Beach, East End, Lockwood Folly and Holden Beach, West End, Oak Island, which is, I mean, look at that. Look at these. Those are totally in the inlet hazard. If they were destroyed 50% or more, and you sold one of those oceanfront houses and it was destroyed 50% or more, you've got to find out what that person's going to be able to build back at any given time. Okay, keep going, Kathy. This goes on down to Carolina Beach, which Jody's getting up into your territory there.
It's a lot.
Yeah, Masonboro.
So, Cherri, can you talk about the difference between this and a Cobra zone?
I no. Mhm. I
I
don't.
know the only Cobra zone areas we have are, right now anyway, are in North Topsail,
Mhm.
but it's a similar type situation.
It is similar.
They can-
Cobra's more.
They can say you can't rebuild at all.
That's correct. Now, on the rebuild, please understand on the rebuild, you are, as long as your house is, and I'm so glad you brought that up. As long as your house is destroyed less than 50% by either a natural disaster or fire or something, you can rebuild that house back to the same size that it is. It is when it is destroyed 50% or more that you've got to go to the municipality and find out exactly what your parameters are on rebuilding. That, please understand also that 50% is only the value of the home. That's where a lot of people get messed up. If just say, and I'm just going to use easy figures, say a home is $400,000 and to purchase it, and the land's worth $200,000. Your 50% is going to be of the $200,000 of the home, not of the $400,000 of the property. Okay, Kathy, going down, and I just wanted you to see how hugely impacted these areas are with this inlet hazard. This goes over to Figure 8 Island. Pardon? Yeah.
Focus on you, Arnold.
Hey, Arnold.
Hey, Arnold.
That's Topsail,
That's Topsail.
yeah, and North Topsail.
And Jody, it may be because you see how many houses here
Yeah.
are in that area. If Cobra, I'm not real familiar with the Cobra zone,
Okay, that's
actually.
fine.
Okay. That's Bogue and Emerald Isle. Mhm. Okay, now, I want to talk to you about the marsh side, because you've got rules and regulations on the oceanfront side, but also there are very, very strict rules on the intercoastal waterway side or any of the marsh area that is also around an island. So I pulled up, this is the east end of Ocean Isle, and I'm going to show you a line that's very important here. This area back here is that's all wetlands. And there are actually really high pockets of land in with the wetlands, but wetlands are very protected. And you can, if you build your home up to a wetland area, or if your land is impacted by some wetlands, you can go in and you can hand cut and manicure the wetlands, but you cannot take machinery in there and disturb the soil. This area back here, this is actually Little Beach Landing, which backs up to the marsh on Ocean Island. I'm only pulling this up because I'm very familiar with it. Kathy, go to the next slide, please. I'm going to show you some of the lots that are in Little Beach Landing because I want you to be.
Yeah, that's,
PDF?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we gotta switch over to that.
Okay.
There you go.
So in Little Beach Landing, this is my engineering map. This is all wetlands. But this line right here is called USACE easement line. That stands for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer line. This was not pointed out to me by the engineers, and I had to learn about it the hard way. Not on this particular lot right here, but lot number 50, which is on down the street, has the same situation. This line is this USACE line here. You can build beyond that line to the back of the lot, but anything that you build there, number one, cannot be structure. It can be steps, it can be your pool, it can be a fire pit. It cannot be, your house cannot encroach into that. At any given time, if the Corps of Engineers feels like that they need to use that land for something, they could come and tear up whatever is in there and not have to put it back. So this line right here, I actually have a client that purchased this lot, and I had to explain over and over and over about this line. That he could put something back there, but he's got to know that if the Corps of Engineers ever needs it, which I doubt would ever happen. I mean, the Corps of Engineers has a lot of land that they can use, but you've got to be aware, and it has to be disclosed that they can, if circumstances would be such that they needed to use it, and they do not have to put it back. And this line runs all the way through Little Beach Landing. Now, there's only a few lots that are impacted by that. And the funny story on that one is that back in the day, Odell, the Corps of Engineers line actually ran down the backside of the island, and there were a lot of properties that were sold and a lot of properties that were built upon. And then it was like, oh my, that USACE line runs through there. So they had to do some quick trading of land. And that's when the whole area of Craven Street, which is on the backside of the island, every single one of those houses were built in the USACE area. So there had to be a lot of horse trading done to get this line moved to this area. So now we have to be.
Line that's down in the middle?
It's not this line, it is this line right here.
Right. What's the one that goes through the middle?
This is just a match line for the engineering maps.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was
But
something
yeah,
else
but
with
then
that
it
one.
comes down here and it goes up and then it comes across.
Okay.
So there are, lots down here that are impacted as well. But this was the one that I could find that was clear.
Gotcha.
Mhm. So have y'all got any questions other than Cobra about the the inlet hazard or the marshland side? Because I want to go over just a couple more things with you.
Is that just that Corps of Engineers, that's not specific to oceanfront, that can be anywhere, right?
That could be anywhere,
Yeah,
but it's
okay.
usually along the intercoastal waterway side.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's, that's where you've got to get permission to do anything. So for example, when my client gets ready to build his pool, he's probably gonna build his pool back in this area.
And just hope they
He will,
never.
he will have to get permission from the Corps of Engineers, and he'll have to sign off. If you ever need to use my pool area, you can take my pool up and you don't have to put it back.
Or give
And
you
that's,
money for it.
as Chris was saying, so this is Ocean Beach, but that could extend all the way up
It
to
got-
like
It's the
Topsail.
entire, it's the entire coast, and it's called USACE, US Army Corps of Engineers line. So you need to check if you're ever selling any marshland, find out how close that land, how close that line comes to your property.
They also have to issue permits for piers and docks and all that.
That's
other
correct.
stuff
Mhm.
Because of that same thing, I guess.
Mhm. Sure do. Anytime you're gonna be crossing over wetlands or doing any of that area like that is. I wanted to just point out another couple of things on the, wetland side of developing. You can go back to that.
Back to the slideshow.
On this side, you've got to make sure that if you're working with a builder, or if you've got a property owner that is going to be building, they have to make sure that when they are building, that they put silt fence all the way around their property, because DEQ, Department of Water Quality, will come in and fine you if you are having any disturbance run into the marsh area. So you've got to have silt fence. Pools, the area, a pool can run right up to a wetland line. And as far as impervious and pervious surfaces go on building a property, believe it or not, even if a pool is concrete, the pool does not count as part of the impervious surface, because it takes on stormwater, but it just makes no sense. It cannot penetrate, but that's one of the rules. Yeah. So if you've got a impervious surface calculation of 1,250 square feet, your pool does not count. The decking around your pool counts as part of that impervious surface, but the pool
Unless
is,
it's for
And the-
acres.
yeah.
that's right.
That's right.
Right.
Because that's
You-
pervious.
It is, as long as there's enough space
There's
between
gaps
it.
and
Yeah.
sand or whatever.
Mhm. That's why, have y'all ever seen driveways where people put down rock and then they'll put down boards along where the tires are gonna go?
Yeah.
That's one way that they will get around allowing a little bit more impervious surface. Now, that also makes no sense, because I will tell you, there are people that are gonna be driving on those rocks. And once the rocks are driven on, the rocks pack down and they become impervious. So there's a lot of rules and regulations that people kind of skirt around. I wanted to go over one other thing with you about the flood rates. I want you to be aware that the flood rates are probably going to change 10/1. Kathy is working on having a flood seminar brought in. And that's going to be a very important thing for you to be aware of. Larry and I pulled a couple of quotes on some houses in the AE zone on Ocean Isle Beach. Those houses along that area on a canal are usually in the anywhere from $600 to $800 a year right now for flood. Come October 1st, one of them on the private market is going to be $1,947, and with federal flood, it's going to be $3,069. So you need to be aware that October 1, all of that's going to change, and I have been told that the flood's going to increase 18% per year until the federal government's able to start getting some money back into the coffers to take care of some of the flooding that went on during the storms.
So the maps aren't changing, just the rates.
The rates are gonna change and some of the maps are gonna change. We had a lot, y'all, and this is the way I help my clients remember this. There's the 3 flood zones. There's AE, there's VE, and there's X. And X, please do not ever tell anybody they don't need flood. They are not required to have flood. There's a big difference in need and being required. If you have a mortgage, if you're in AE or VE, you do have to have flood insurance. If you don't have a mortgage, it's up to you. But you never tell a client that they don't need it. Just not required. But I tell my clients, the best way to remember is AE is almost expensive and VE is very expensive.
That's good.
Larry pulled a couple of things. We've got brochures that are put out by the Real Estate Commission. These 2 are about coastal properties. You may want to look into getting these for given to your client when they're getting ready to buy a piece of property on the ocean or anywhere on an island.
Are they 25 cents each too?
I'm sure they are.
Okay.
And you got to make sure that they're not going to change them next month.
That's
And
right.
Well, I believe they're also on the NREF site too, aren't they? Aren't they available for download on there?
Yeah. I mean, you could download them, but if you wanted to have.
Yeah.
With you to share and as a handout, you can do that too.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can download anything from there for free.
Mhm. So do y'all have any questions about anything? Don't know if I can answer or not, but I sure try. On a side note, I'd like to bring up one more thing, and I cut this out of the, I can't remember the name of the magazine last month. Be careful about these love letters. When I read this article, I knew that love letters were a problem because I had a discussion with Will Martin about it, but I didn't realize how sensitive they can come across. For example, if you have a client and they write a love letter to a seller that they envision at Christmas, they will be hanging stockings on the fireplace, and the seller is not of Christian religion, that you can be sued for it.
Putting your
Fair
picture of
housing.
you and your husband and your little dog in the front shows the race of that person. And so it could be offensive to that seller one way or the other. Little things that you don't even think about.
Never would have thought
Yeah.
about it. Absolutely. So
We had an agent in here who did it when put in pictures of all 5 kids, the one on the way. And I'm like, no, do not present that.
Yeah, so be very careful about your love letters. I wouldn't. Will Martin says that if a buyer writes a love letter, that it is your duty to give it to the seller, but you can also tell the seller, I suggest that you not even open this. So, yeah,
Buyers write like letters.
yes, they do.
Oh, yeah,
All the
we-
time.
It got real popular about.
There's no questions. It was just, I don't know if you guys could see the chat, but Manda did mention that we do have flood training coming on October 5th for a lunch and learn.
Oh, okay. Is it up in Wilmington?
It'll be in Wilmington.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good. Were
And,
there
you
questions?
know,
I didn't see.
There were
them.
no.
Okay.
No,
All
there's,
right.
but as far as that flood training goes, I mean, that's an ongoing thing, because they started that in August, telling us that changes were going to happen, and then October 1st is the first real big thing to change.
Mhm.
But it'll be changing ongoing, including how much you can be insured for, and your rates are going to be dependent on what you're building and where you're building it. So if you're in a flood zone in a subdivision, 10 miles from the ocean, that rate might be different than if you're in a flood zone.
And it may well be
Waterway.
more than
Well,
even on the ocean.
Absolutely, because there's nothing the tides go in and out.
That's
on the
correct.
Ocean front.
There's plenty of places for the water to dissipate to along the coast.
Right.
And there is not around a river. River rises and it only has just so much area that it can go into.
Wait for it to just go away.
Yeah.
Go
So
somewhere
that
else.
is something that you really, really need to be aware of as well, is the flood.
I want to piggyback on something you said
Okay,
about the contacting your municipality
Mhm.
before your seller makes a decision. It could be any lot, anywhere. And I say this because we, this week, received a letter from an attorney from a buyer's attorney who wants to sue our listing agent because he said they didn't tell them, they didn't provide the survey in time for them to do blah, blah, blah. Well, his real beef is with his buyer's agent, because during due diligence, that's when you should get your own survey. You should have your own builder look at it, and you should do your due diligence in reaching out to the municipality, depending on what you want to do. So
For your
don't
buyer.
depend on any information you get from a listing agent, because it may or may not be current. For one thing, like you said, the title thing, it moves all the time. But if you're a buyer's agent with a buyer that's looking to purchase a lot, there's a lot that goes into due diligence during that period of time.
that is correct.
So,
That, more than just a home inspection. Exactly, and it's especially if you are near a stream or near the ocean.
Yeah. if they want to add on a garage apartment or something like that, you gotta find out if it's even legal.
That's right.
And you talked about pervious space, all those things, we don't know what the calculation is.
That's right.
So they need to get their, the right people. I go back to the contract where it says, you are hiring me to be your realtor. You're not hiring me to be an engineer, a contractor, a surveyor. You're none of those things. You're the realtor, but you're responsible for putting that buyer in contact with those people so they can make a good decision.
Professional services disclosure.
That's right. And I could go on, but
Yeah.
thank you very much,
Yeah.
Cherri.
Jerry, thank you. I will say that one thing I did not know was the fact that what you look at today, or whether you even knew if something was rebuildable today, that it may not be next year.
That's correct.
And that it's something that you need to do in a timely manner and follow up on and check with. So that explains why Keith is always on the phone.
That's right. That's right. We're good buddies.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions on anybody in Zoom or anybody in the chat want to have anything for the legend that we have in front of us?
She is a legend.
Yeah.
She started at 4, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, me, yeah.
All right, I got
Okay.
another one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.